Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce Ng. And Joyce, we're so excited because later today, as we're recording this on a Wednesday,
Wednesday,
we're going to go see The Tender Bar with Ben Affleck, our favorite, directed by George Clooney. So I look forward to talking to you, actually seeing you there, and then also talking about it.
I know. I haven't seen you in person in 3 years.
We were talking about this recently. I think perhaps the last time we were even in the same room was the Marriage Story premiere at New York Film Festival with Andrew Garfield.
But we didn't know it.
We didn't know it. We both sat next to Andrew Garfield, a lovely man. I was
behind Andrew Garfield and you were next to him.
Yes. Future Best Actor nominee Andrew Garfield for Tick Tick Boom.
Probably for a Golden Globe. More likely. Yeah.
So we had so much great stuff this week. We have the possible return of the Golden Globes. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But first I want to talk about finally clarification on the category placement of Belfast stars Caitriona Balfe and Jamie Dornan. Joyce, totally unsurprised by this personally. They're both going in the supporting categories.
I mean, you've been championing this since you saw it at Telluride, like this placement.
Yes, I was a big proponent of this because I think they're not leads. Just they're not in it enough. And I think competing against like lead performances would have been tricky as a supporting without the amount of screen time that maybe qualify for supporting or you think of as a lead, excuse me. So yeah, despite Scott Feinberg saying that they could all win for lead actor, lead actress, supporting actor, and supporting actress for Judi Dench and Ciarán Hinds, no, they're all going supporting, which I think is a boon for their chances. And I added them both to my predictions. I have Katrina in second, right behind Ann Dowd, and I could see switching because I think my logic here, Joyce, and I have Jamie Dornan winning. That was burying the lead in a wide open Best Supporting Actor race that has no seeming front runner, and the front runner that exists is perhaps, I guess, Richard Jenkins for The Humans, but I wonder how big
I feel like that's more of a hope diction.
Yeah, and it also seems like a smaller movie. So my thinking for having one or both of them win is that Belfast is like a very strong front runner for Best Picture. If it's going to win Best Picture, it'll probably win an acting award. And then maybe one of these two win in races that we have discussed, as we discussed like last week with Ann Dowd, pretty wide open, it seems. Nobody is like stepped up in the way that like a Will Smith or a Kristen Stewart has in the lead performance. So what do you think, Joyce? What did you make of all this? And I know you wrote a great piece this week for the site about how we could have Belfast could get 2 supporting actors and 2 supporting actor nominations.
The supporting double.
Yes.
Just like basketball, there are double doubles at the Oscars, but it's very rare.
How often has it happened? Tell me how often it's happened.
It's only happened twice with Peyton Place. Mm-hmm. So we got 2 slots in each supporting category. None of them won. And then the last time it happened was 50 years ago with The Last Picture Show, 2 in each. And this time it did win both categories with Ben Johnson and Cloris Leachman, RIP. So Belfast can do it this year, maybe. I have 3 of the 4, and I have Jamie, Judi, and Katrina, and I have Katrina winning. I haven't seen it, but just based on the reaction to her, it seems like she's the consensus standout. And like you've been saying that like she can win if she goes supporting.
So I don't disagree with that, even though I don't have her winning. I still have Ann Dowd there because I feel like people just love Ann Dowd, but I think that could change. And we've already seen like Katrina do a lot of she's already like started the run. One of the things I think is most impressive about Belfast, and like we had talked about this when I came back from Telluride, about like how Will Smith and like kind of King Richard is waiting to like kind of like hit its run. I feel like they hit the ground running with Belfast. So like Jamie Dornan was like kissing babies and shaking hands at Telluride already.
Judi came out to the London Film Festival yesterday, man. She never goes to anything.
So they're all like all over the place. I actually don't have Judi in at the moment, but I have Ciarán. How would you say his name? Let's talk about that as I butcher it through the last 3 episodes of this.
I don't know. I think we would have to Google that.
Okay, we can Google later, but I have him in. He plays, so you haven't seen it. I have seen it. The movie is about a young boy named Buddy, who is the Kenneth Branagh stand-in. Jude Hill is the actor. They're going to put him up for lead actor. seems
which I respect. They're not trying to fraud him into supporting, like many past films have done.
Yes, because you could easily do that with a kid. We saw that with like Jacob Tremblay for Room, I think was like a prominent example where he's like the lead of the movie and they run him supporting. I don't believe I think it's a long shot nomination, I would say. Just, based on the amount of talent, like we've discussed in Best Actor and his performance. So then all the adult performers are in supporting. Judi Dench is great. She has a smaller part than Ciaran, but she has like a big moment right at the end. So I feel like you've discussed, like when you walk out of the movie, if it's like, the last thing you think of the performance, you're going to be like, man, that Judi Dench, she's great, still got it. So I could definitely see her getting in. The reason I don't have her in is I actually think supporting actress is shaping up to be more competitive than supporting actor. And I wonder if Judi Dench, if the movie can support both of them when there are so many other worthy supporting actress contenders. So my list would be Ann Dowd, Anjanae Ellis for King Richard, which I feel like is kind of like, again, like one of those that feels like one that's snowballing as people like see it and consider it. Ruth Negga for Passing, I feel like is a strong option as well. We've talked about like she's gotten great reviews for that movie, a past nominee, and Netflix, the Netflix bump, let's say, of having the availability and like the visibility about it. And I think her performance from Sundance has been like highlighted as a real contender. And then Kirsten Dunst, our gal Kiki, for Power of the Dog. So that's my 5 there. And no Judi Dench. I'd have her 6th.
Yeah, I have the 4 of those, and then I have Judy instead of Anne. So like the same thing you said about if like Belfast can carry like double noms here. Like I mentioned this like last week in our column, is like I don't like not just even like Ann Dowd like by herself, because like Mass was so small, but like I thought like Martha Plimpton was also amazing in Mass, and I could see people being torn between them, and I don't think like Mass could support double nominees. Yeah. Whereas Belfast definitely can, especially if it's going to be a Best Picture frontrunner. And I do agree that like this category, it's like we have, I would say probably like the top like 10, maybe like 15 people are like competing, and then it could just kind of like settle in on a 5. Whereas it's way more chaotic in supporting actor. So I can see like Belfast getting 2 slots here, because supporting also favors like Best Picture contenders. So, and like, like you said, she's Judi Dench, and she's actually like campaigning-ish. Like, I mean, she just went to the premiere, but it's like, more than she's done in recent years for things, really. So especially during a pandemic, she brought her grandson. Like, come on. Yeah,
she's great in it. And it's like, like whatever you're imagining a Judi Dench performance to be, this would be it. It's like peak Judi Dench, basically. She's like kind of like no nonsense, the wizened elder matriarch of this family and stuff. So just to round out supporting actress. So Anne is again way ahead in our odds, but like you said, I wonder, I guess we'll have to see how it shakes out. Is it like a Melissa Leo and what was that one? Remember Novitiate?
Novitiate. Yeah, this is serving Melissa Leo teas, this like Ann Dowd Hope Diction, like really like it's such a small movie, and I just it opened limited, obviously, like this past weekend Mass, and as expected, didn't really set the box office on fire.
No.
So,
but like we had said, the one thing I think it has going for it is that all the reviews have been great. Everyone who's seen it really likes it. And I think obviously they're going to campaign. Like she's going to be out there.
She's going to campaign. I mean, she funded her own campaign 9 years ago.
And so all of that together, I'm like, oh, there's a world. I could definitely see it happening. And the performance is really good. Like you said, I think the Martha Plimpton of it makes it a challenge because they're both great. And it's surprisingly like Martha Plimpton, not really referent, she's 14th, I think, in the combined odds for us.
Yeah, I think this is just kind of like a symptom where, sometimes like predictions become self-fulfilling prophecies just because like out of Sundance, and everyone was just on the Ann Dowd train. And that's why like before I watched it, I was expecting her to be like the MVP. I'm like, no, like this is a collective like group effort here. But I think like, when people started predicting in July, like they just plopped her in there in first, and a lot of people don't update until like the day before nominations too.
Right. And speaking of that, so if you look at our list, the combined odds, the two people we didn't mention or that are actually above Katrina, but like we said, she just switched to supporting this week, so let people catch up. But we're Marlee Matlin for Coda, past winner. We both love her in the movie, I think, and like great movie. I guess we'll see. It remains to be seen what kind of second win that movie can have. I'm really hoping for it because it's definitely my favorite.
I feel like that would be more watched than Mass.
Yeah, well, it's available right now for people who are done with Ted Lasso. They could switch over to Coda.
And then are they even like promoting that like in between like Ted Lasso episodes?
Right, and the morning show, I guess. And then Ariana DeBose for West Side Story. Again, nobody's really seen. I don't know one person who's seen it, but obviously she plays the Rita Moreno role, Anita in West Side Story. So that's like just based on the role and the history, has her in contention as well. And then supporting actor. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I keep reading the same. So we talked about this. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. Like, I was all in on Bradley Cooper, but I keep reading that he's really not in Licorice Pizza very much, and that like they're obviously using.
I mean, like we talked about last time, didn't we? That he was probably on set for like 3 days.
So like that is like leading me to believe that maybe he's not as much of a slam dunk contender.
It's got to be Sean Penn, okay?
I mean, we had talked about like, again, like a lot of the odds here are playing catch up, like Cody Smith-McPhee in the combined odds, not ahead of Jesse Plemons. I think that's also because like people just haven't seen Power of the Dog.
Yeah. If you look at like if you don't look at overall, like I think Cody's in the top 5. If you just look,
let me look at the experts. The one thing I was thinking was, imagine this with all these worthy. I was like, what if we got 2 Belfast and 2 Power of the Dog? Like Jesse Plemons, I mean,
it could totally happen just because I just with the way like everything is now, like just like the inundation of like not just movies, but like shows and like people like returning to work, like they don't have time to like catch up on things. I feel like last year, you would say like people are stuck at home, they have more time to watch screeners, but maybe they also didn't want to watch like new movies. They just wanted to watch like their favorite shows or something, or their favorite films. And
that's true.
Like supporting categories like favor, like especially in this era, it favors like best picture coattails. It doesn't really favor like lone nominees, which is also another reason why I'm like wary of like Ann Dowd, because she could very well be a lone nominee.
Right.
So
and that's also why Richard Jenkins is maybe like a little dicey, because The Humans is not going to really get it. Doesn't. I mean,
I have Cody winning, and I don't even know. Like he's very young.
I had Cody winning.
They don't like their young men.
So I had Cody winning until I switched to Dornan. I'll tell you the reason I switched to Jamie Dornan is, like I said, I feel like he's incredibly charming, and I think he's actually very well liked. Like people seem to really enjoy him as a performer, like, and as like a personality. He's very, he's got a great sense of humor about himself and like all these things. He's obviously campaigning or willing to campaign. He was like a big factor of at Telluride. He was like at everything. I saw him like in 25 places basically. And then the other thing is like, he's really fun in the movie and like has a different flavor of performance, I think, than Katrina. So Katrina has like they both have like couple of big scenes. Katrina's is like a lot more like traditional Oscar clip, I would say, where she's like, kind of like, I'm going to defend my family and like stick up for myself. And like, it's like a very great scene. It's probably like the emotional high point of the film. And then Jamie has like a couple of scenes where he's like full on movie star mode, because like, it's kind of like not super subtle, because when you see it, and I'll stop rambling about it, but like, it's like Kenneth Branagh obviously like filtered a lot of his childhood and stuff through going to the movies. So like there's scenes where they actually go to the movies and watch different things. And like the Jamie character ends up being like a mix of like, there's like a scene where he's kind of like Gary Cooper in High Noon, and they actually reference like High Noon. It's not like a reenactment, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, he's like the lone dude standing up for, his family and stuff. And then like, there's a later scene that's in the trailer. You've seen it, where he's like singing Everlasting Love. Definitely the best part of the movie. Put Jamie Dornan in a musical, I'm sure he would love it after that. And like Barb and Star. It's just like he's super charming, and I just think like that performance is gonna pop in a way that the Cody Smith McPhee one, while I had him winning until the Jamie Jordan switch, it's a great performance as well. But I think I really feel like those are the two that are like moving well ahead. The other person I switched in, which I can't wait for you to see it, is John Bernthal for King Richard. I put him in as well.
I've had him in there. So I've had like King Richard getting 3 acting nominations this whole time.
Yeah, me too. I just did it like that. I was like, I got Joyce on something. No,
so,
you already had it.
No, yeah. Like my 5 is like, it's Cody, Jamie, John, Bradley, your guy, and Richard Jenkins. Like,
nice. I actually booted,
like, yeah,
booted Bradley. I booted Bradley this week.
You had him winning like what, yesterday? Wait, so you replaced him with John?
I replaced him with Jamie, and John
right.
I added instead of let me see. Hold on.
I mean, like I don't
I replaced Jared Leto. I had in, and I replaced him with John.
I can see all 5 of these people getting in and them not getting in as well. I mean, I think Cody's safe, probably.
I think so, but I'm like, that's the one thing I would say. Like we talked about this, like there's like a dozen like best actress contenders. Best actor is also like loaded, but it does feel like those races are a little more like, I think like if we had to like, you have to make right now predictions and you can't change them. If we made those predictions now, best actor and best actress, we'd probably do pretty well based on like what we've seen. I think supporting actor and supporting actors are like completely wide open to the point where if you told me to make a list right now of like 5 nominees, there could be totally different 5 nominees that actually get nominated. It just feels like there's at this point in the race, there are so many options and like contenders, and a lot of the supporting performances and things that haven't widely screened, which is kind of like, you don't know until you know. I don't know. I'm fascinated by these races. I guess we'll see. Like,
I mean, neither of us has our guy Ben Affleck for either of his films.
Right. And like, we're going to see that later. Like there was already nascent buzz for Tender Bar. It feels like, I think Clayton Davis maybe did that for Variety this week, where it's like, oh, like comeback nomination, another quote unquote comeback nomination for Ben Affleck, who has 2 Oscars and is like very well regarded.
Listen, he's never had an acting nomination. So
he's never had an acting nomination. Is this like the year that he gets one? And then if Ben Affleck is in the race, does it like snowball into like, hey, maybe we should give Ben an Oscar and for acting? I do feel like he was close last year for Way Back. I still believe that.
I mean, I don't think he was like to the top 5. I don't think he was like that close, but I feel like that could only help him this year. And like with 2 films, like The Last Duel, the other one, like and they're like 2 completely different performances.
Right.
I think he could get like body of work recognition. Like it just needs to coalesce around one film because he can only get nominated for one of them. And it looks like The Last Duel is not only the bigger film, but the stronger film at the moment. So that could be his ticket to. It
also is like again, we haven't seen that one. You and we both missed the screenings, but based on the reviews, it seems like he's got like the showy like scene chomping role in that one.
Yeah. And you know what? Like I'm happy for him. Like,
me too. I'm a big, huge Ben Affleck
like
supporter.
We're big Ben supporters.
Yeah. It's just great. I love his performers. I love his performances. I'm like in on him. I really do think the Way Back was like awesome. He was so good.
This is his way back to the Oscars. Okay.
Yeah. So Belfast. I don't know. I mean, like, it would be interesting. I guess I could, like you said, I think 4 of them getting in would be kind of crownish to me. Like I just don't see it kind of happening. I don't know. It would, but I can think 3
I only have 3.
I think 3 could make it. I really do. I think 3. And I think if I had to rank them in likelihood, I'd put like Katrina, and I guess I'd put Katrina and Jamie 1, 2, and then Judy, and then Ciaran. I'll look it up after this. I promise.
Do you think like if Judy and Katrina gets in, like Judy would hurt Katrina anyway in terms of winning? Or do you think,
know.
Like, Katrina's like so far ahead, like she's so obvious, like the MVP that she could win easily?
I think I think it's obvious. I think she would win easily. Not easily. I don't think Judy would hurt her though, because I feel like just if you look at them side by side, the Katrina performance is probably got a couple of more. It's just bigger, and also it's like the element of not necessarily surprise, but like, like for people who only know her for Outlander, let's say, they might be like, oh wow, I didn't even recognize her in this, or she's so great in this. I mean, she was in like Ford versus Ferrari, I guess, like is her biggest film role.
She's done very few films. I guess like Outlander takes up a lot of her time.
Right. So it's like she was good in Ford versus Ferrari. And I think if you had not seen Outlander, you might be like, oh, like that's somebody. But again, that role was like the wife. And I think she has so much more to do in Belfast beyond playing just the wife and mom, or at least within that framework, playing, kind of doing a little more. So I think like that alone, that would push her over the top. The Judi Dench stuff, like I said, it's like she already won, and it's like Judi Dench. Like you expect Judi Dench to be like Judi Dench. I don't know.
You know what I realized when I was like putting Katrina in, like, because I already had like Ruth Ann, so I was like, oh, we could have like 2 Irish actresses here, and then I was like, Katrina can actually win, and then I felt bad for Saoirse Ronan. So just want to give a shout out to Saoirse Ronan.
Love Saoirse. She's in the Wes Anderson movie French Dispatch, and she plays an unnamed a showgirl, and she's in it for like 3 seconds, and I barely she has like a couple of lines, obviously, but I barely recognized her, and I was like, wow, I couldn't even believe I couldn't even recognize her, but then I did. I was like, oh, great story, I know, but yeah, there you go for Saoirse. She still was great. I still love her, so I feel like she'll get
her. She's just had bad timing.
I feel like she'll get there based on like what she's been nominated for already. Now let's talk. Joyce, I want to switch gears to the return, perhaps, of our favorite
return question mark
most embattled should be canceled award show, the Golden Globes. They announced it hasn't even been announced, but like it was reported this week, and like a source close to the Hollywood Foreign Press was like, yes, they're going to try to give out awards this year. Like kind of press conference.
Well, we knew
style.
Last week they were allegedly meeting with publicists.
Right. And they apparently like said to the studios, like, here's the eligibility rules and stuff, and et cetera, et cetera. So they're going to give out, it seems like they could and probably will just give out awards. They don't really need necessarily buy-in from anybody.
No, it could just be like the writer's strike thing.
And that's kind of like what the idea is. Like maybe they'll do like a live stream online or whatever they're going to do. Who knows? And give out the awards and like the same night they were originally going to give them out, which is January 9th, I believe, the same day as the Critics' Choice Awards, which swooped in after the Golden Globes were booted off of NBC. And so now it's basically going to be like, we dare you to cover both, I guess, as a member of the media and in social media. So there's that. It's obviously a lot to untangle there, but I guess the one thing I would say is like, we have in the past, the Golden Globes, like kind of like set up the season, like whether we want them to or not. They have in the past been like, here are the things that are like Bohemian Rhapsody and Green Book. These are things that you should like care about. 1917, another one, like, and on and on. So like they're gonna like kind of, they've in the past set the table. The Critics' Choice Awards obviously trying to do that this year by being on television and doing that and being first. But what are the Golden Globes in theory giving out awards, whether people want the awards or not? Because like obviously like Scarlett Johansson, I think, gave back her Globes, right? And
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise gave back his Globe. Scarlett Johansson said she was going to boycott. I think Mark Ruffalo said he was not pleased that he won.
Look, there were just a lot of like Instagram posts going on for a while there in like February and March.
So the stars are going to be like, nah, basically. We don't necessarily want this honor. But what does it mean to have the Globes back? And like what for these certain performances where we've been like, oh, like, if this was a Globes year, maybe they would be more apt to like be there. I mean, like, what do you think? I don't know.
Like, so my feeling about this is that like, they don't need the cooperation necessarily of the studios and like the publicists to award whoever they want. They could just do it.
Yes.
Especially with TV, like they could have like seen all these shows already. So like whatever, but films, like, yeah, like some movies aren't out yet, so they will need access before they vote, whatever. So they can do it's just like you and I, we can make up our own award show and be like, oh, Caitriona Balfe, Best Supporting Actress,
Congratulations,
like Ben Affleck, Best Supporting Actor. We can do that.
Ben.
So the thing is, it's just like whether the studios and these strategists and these publicists will do anything with this recognition, because in the past, you know, you win a Golden Globe and then they start plastering it all over in their marketing and the promos, you know, like on all their ads, even if it's like comedy / musical, they put in like tiny font, but it says like Golden Globe winner or like nominee. So it's just like, are they going to use that in their marketing and in their campaign? And when like all their actors go on like award talk shows, like will that be part of their intro, you know, like Golden Globe nominee this year for Belfast, whatever. And I feel like, you know, since like all these like studios and networks like really took a hard stance when they boycotted the Globes, like I feel like they would need to have a similar united front if they were to, let's say, like welcome the Globes back. I don't think it'll be like this year, because I don't think they need to do it this year because it's not on air at all.
Right.
So I don't think it matters. And, you know, like NBC had already said, like they're open to airing it in 2023. So I feel like that will probably be like the restart or whatever. So this year it could just kind of be like, whatever, you know, it's like this new membership will do whatever they want. And then it's up to, like, I wouldn't even say like the rest of us, but it's just like how much importance are we going to confer onto these awards? Because the reason the Globes have so much influence is because they're so old. Like they're older than the Emmys.
Mm-hmm.
It's the second oldest award show. Like everyone knows what it is. Like my friends who don't follow this stuff at all, they know the Oscars, they know the Globes. They have no idea what the Critics' Choice Awards are. They have no idea what the SAG Awards are. But like everyone knows the Globes. And then it's just like average people, like they think like the Globe is important, and it's like, no, they're not like actually in the industry, you know. But it's like It's just kind of gained this importance over 77 years. So yeah, I feel like they can just award whoever they want, and then it'll be fun for us because then we're going to be tried to be figuring out like if they're going to do anything differently, like with this like new membership, or like, you know, how they're going to vote. We'll probably do like very poorly, like trying to predict what they're going to do. But I don't know how much, like if people win, like I don't know how much like this, like Netflix, you know, like they were like really hardcore about like boycotting them. Like I don't know if they're going to use that in their marketing.
I probably not, but I guess I think what you're saying is interesting too, because I'm like, it's really then on us. So like I think a lot of people like who think about this are going to be like in normal past years.
Yeah, like we want to use it for like our own data.
Right. Yeah. We would use it and be like, oh, like, well, they did win at the Globes, or it was nominated at the Globes. So like that means something. And like whether it's important or not, like people, it's like kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, basically. Like if the Globes say something, we might be like, it doesn't matter, but then it does matter because we are
or like blah 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 is like the front runner, you know?
Right. Like, so it's like it ends up actually mattering. So I think not having the Globes there kind of unmoors award season in some regards, right? Because it just is like, oh, we don't have like the easy, well, the Globes put it there, so it must be a thing, and then like kind of snowballs on top of that. But now that it's there, will it be a crutch for people to be like, well, the Globes did, like you said, they added a lot of new members, really tried to diversify their ranks, I think, and what, you know, that's good because they had no Black members, I believe, this past year, and hadn't had a Black member for a very long time. So it'll be interesting to see how what they put up there this year as nominees and stuff. But so it's like not necessarily, like you said, it's a different kind of voting body, so maybe there's not as much overlap, or even though there is no overlap, I don't know. I'll be curious to see if they actually do it. I do think the one thing that I'll be curious to see from the Globe standpoint is if it does end up being just like on YouTube or wherever, right? Like, and again, if it's a press conference, they're not going to be able to do like a lot of things. Like, is that the future of all of these shows, or it just is like, are they not on networks and are they just online somehow? Like, does the Emmys, you know, all these shows like the Emmys and the SAG Awards and the Oscars, even like coming off record low ratings, do they end up just being like, here, we're going to be on YouTube eventually? Is that like the future of this in like 10 years?
I mean, like, sure. And honestly, like they're better off for it because they don't have to worry about commercial breaks or ads or, like ending before like the news comes on at 11.
Yep, I was thinking that too. I was like, it would actually be a lot
like
more.
Honestly, I don't need like a whole production. I'm totally fine with people just reading off a list of names.
I love that 2008 Golden Globes during the writers.
Yeah, like just give me the press conference.
It's great. I knew all the winners after an hour. Totally loved it. Totally in on that. So I mean, I guess like for the Globes, like the one thing I will say is that this year there are a ton of musicals. So I feel like you'll end up with like maybe a lot more options in the.
I mean, we were really lamenting the cancellation of the Globes for all these musicals for a while there.
Right. So it's like, have like obviously like In the Heights and Tick Tick Boom and West Side Story. There's like a ton of musicals. Dear Evan Hansen. Does Ben Platt get nominated as Best Actor for Dear Evan Hansen? It's possible.
I mean, they nominate him for The Politician, so it's
possible. I mean, like if you look at the acting race, you have Will Smith for King Richard. I guess they could fraud that into a comedy, but it would be really weird. Tragic Macbeth, Power of the Dog, Cyrano is a musical, so you'd have Peter Dinklage as one actor nominee. Tick Tick Boom would be Andrew Garfield. Adam Driver for Annette back in contention. That's a musical.
He could get 3 nominations.
Yeah, he could from the Globes for sure. DiCaprio for Don't Look Up feels like a comedy, right? I'm sure they would run it there. It's just a funny, it's interesting. And then Ben Platt, I'm like, I could really see him getting in for Best Actor in a musical or comedy.
I mean, they have to fill out the category, so
that's what we're missing by not having the Globes. And imagine if the Globes existed, how much people online would love that to have Ben Platt nominated. They would have really,
for sure.
Would have been great.
I mean, like imagine if they gave like Dear Evan Hansen a Best Picture nomination.
I mean, honestly, I would be supportive of that for the musical. I like Dear Evan. I'm the one person who enjoyed it. I did like it though, but I just think it's funny that's like these are the conversations we have are afforded to if the Golden Globes do exist. I would say I think it's interesting that they didn't actually confirm it. I know that like they were talking to publicists and studios last week. It did feel like a trial balloon to like kind of slowly release it out.
They're definitely like putting feelers out
to see like what the response would be. And honestly, the response has been totally, I think, shrug. I don't think people are like outraged that it'll exist.
Yeah, and we've always like spoken about this as a possibility because the whole thing is like NBC canceled the Globes, but it just means like they weren't going to air it, and no one else was going to step in and be like, "We'll air you,"
right?
But like the HFPA can still do whatever they want,
right? It's true. And so I guess we'll see, and then we'll see how the critics. I mean, that's interesting. This is like for future us to talk about, but like how the Critics' Choice Awards kind of like try to take the Globes' thunder and influence, and if that actually does work. Like you said, like I think a normal, non-you and I, total obsessive person would be like, what are the Critics' Choice Awards, right? I think Golden Globes people know just by the fact that they know, but who knows? I guess I don't know. If it's there, do people just say like, well, I'm used to watching the Golden Globes in January and this other show is on. I guess this is like the Golden Globes now, like if you're not following the machinations of everything and how it's turned out. I mean,
that would also like demand you to be like, I care about watching this in the first place.
Right. Which they could make it work because it's like,
I mean, the Critics' Choice like has been on TV for like almost 20 years now anyway.
That's true.
But on like the CW around a lot,
right? And A&E, I think was
and like on E. I mean, I still remember Orlando Bloom like picking up little Dakota Fanning to like on the podium. But yeah, I think it would be more interesting if like the Globes like don't announce until like February or something. So like let the Critics' Choice like do whatever, because we know Critics' Choice, they have often piggybacked off of the Globe results,
right?
And like they usually don't even start voting for the winners until after the Globes. So let's see what they do like on their own. I mean, remember that year when they moved it back to December, and then they're like, just kidding, we'll move it back to like the weekend after the Globes next year.
Yeah.
So
that's the Globes. That's good. And before we wrap up, Joyce, anything else do you want to float out there? Do we miss anything?
I don't know what else.
We had the Bond open, a little slightly soft.
You saw Bond.
I did see Bond.
I still haven't seen a Daniel Craig Bond.
I'll tell you this. It will never happen and it shouldn't happen, but I would 100% support a Ana de Armas Best Supporting Actress nomination. It won't happen.
I saw a lot of people raving her, and it wasn't just like Ana de Armas updates on Twitter. So
no, she's unbelievable in the movie. It's the best. She comes in. So as someone who's seen Bond, they bring Bond. I was talking about this with somebody else. every Bond movie now is like Bond's retired, got to bring him out, right? Like it feels like that's happened like 40 times, or maybe 20 times out of the 25.
That's like the plot of like 3/4 of the films.
So you'll be surprised to know that this one also Bond is retired. They bring him out of retirement, but this time it's the CIA who kind of helps him come out. So Felix Leiter is a big part of it. Jeffrey Wright, who returns to the franchise after Casino Royale. He actually hadn't been in one since Casino Royale, which is kind of wild. Anyway, they go to Cuba to do some MacGuffin-y thing, and he teams up with like Ana de Armas, and it's awesome. She totally like owns the movie for like 15 minutes. Has actual chemistry with Daniel Craig, which is challenging. What's that? Yeah, from Knives Out, right? And it's like that works really well, and like he's super charming in the scenes with her, and she just rules. It's so great, and she literally is just like her last moment in the movie is just her like, well, this is where I get off, and I gotta go. It's just like it literally just is like, see you guys, I'm done. It's like okay, she's awesome in it, so great. So that was my big thing.
They did ask about like a spinoff for her character, and they're like, no, we don't do spinoffs.
Right. Well, you don't want to like dilute the Bond brand, I guess, but she's awesome. And somebody watching that should absolutely have been like for all like there's so many versions of like lady assassin movies I feel like that we've seen lately. I'm like, give her one of those. She'd be really good at it, or just some kind of action movie with Ana de Armas. I think she'd like.
Her next film is that like $300 million like Netflix Russo Brothers movie with like Gosling and like Chris Evans.
Good.
But I don't think that's like her. I think this is like another, she'll probably have more than 15 minutes in this, but I think like she's not the lead basically, because it's based on like books, and Gosling's the lead.
Right. So the one thing I would say, we talked about it last week, like speculating about the below the line, everything we said last week, if you're still watching this and / watch last week, totally in play. I feel like the cinematography is awesome. It like looks so great. From Linus, we want to say Sandgren, who won an Oscar for La La Land. Awesome stuff. A lot of like oneers or like fake oneers where they're hiding the cuts, which is like a Cary Fukunaga, I'd say hallmark at this point. But there's some really cool stuff. Score is awesome by Hans Zimmer. Great sound, notable sound design. So I'm like, I think that's in play. That could ease, and then the song, I'm like, that's like 4 nominations right there. I could easily see that. Even with like there was like speculation it was going to get like $100 million this weekend at the box office, which just seemed kind of wacky, because like you could watch Venom twice basically in the time it takes you to watch Bond once.
It's too long.
It's pretty long, especially with Venom as 90 minutes. If you're like a regular
perfect length 90-minute movie,
perfect length, totally low impact. So yeah, I'll be curious to see. I think I could see that really doing okay though with those below the line noms. The tech stuff is dope. It's really like really fun, and I would watch it again. It's like way better than Spectre, which you have never seen. You have no frame of reference for, but you know.
Well, like you've said, like every other movie is good in this era. So
every other movie is good, though this is not as good as Skyfall. And there's no when you see it, I'll talk to you about it more maybe, or at least offline. But like. The last act is just bananas in like not the best way, just stuff that happens that doesn't make a lot of sense. But like everything for like, this is one of those movies where like, you know, what's great. The first 2 hours are great. And then the last 45 minutes are like, okay. So it's still a good movie.
You know, that's an issue with a lot of like tentpole films. So
I saw people saying that about My Beloved Dune, which is coming out next week, I guess, on HBO Max and in theaters. So we could talk about that next week. But people were like, oh, the first 2 hours are good. Last half hour is not as good. I was like, the whole thing is great. I'm weighing on Dune too. So
but that's why though, because like part 2 is coming.
Right. Yeah. I'm in on all this stuff. All right. Joyce. So it was great. Go read Joyce's article about the Belfast double nominations, so you can look smart when you're making your picks. And Joyce, I'll see you later.
And then we'll watch basketball and talk about triple doubles next week.
Yeah, that'll be great. And we'll talk about Ben Affleck in the Tender Bar. And I'll see you wearing a mask at our screening. You'll see me under my mask like this.
I won't recognize you then.
No.
I need Andrew Garfield there.
Okay. Bye, Joyce.